Hey, welcome everyone. In this video, we are not only going to talk about Selenium Grid, but we are also going to see a live demo, that is a working Selenium Grid in action. So let's begin with what is the need of Selenium Grid. So let's understand a scenario. Typically in a company, we'll have a test suite in our office. There is a web application and we would have automated a bunch of test cases for that web application. Now our need is we want to execute these test cases every day and we want to report their results back. Now we might be running all the test cases on our own machine. So we typically have one development box assigned to it. So what we do, we automate test cases using our own box, and then typically we run all the test cases on our own box and create a report and we share it with the team members. Now imagine if one fine day somebody comes and says we have to run these test cases across different browser configurations. So we have Firefox, we have Internet Explorer, now we have Microsoft Edge as well, then we have Chrome, then Opera, then Safari. We have a huge matrix of the browsers. Now even that we feel is straightforward. What we go ahead and do is we install all these browsers on our development box or on our machine where we write the code, and we start running our test suite on that. So that also goes very well. We are able to create reports, we are able to share the reports. But now imagine over a period of time if our test suite grows bigger and bigger. Now imagine a case where we have 1000 test cases automated. Now if we schedule this test run on our own box, then what is going to happen is sequentially these tests will be run one by one and they will be running across different browsers. So this test suite, in order to run it completely, it is going to take a huge amount of time. That is one problem that we are going to see. Second problem is, let's say we are having development box which is a Windows box, and typically in one of the meetings it came out like people use Safari on Mac, so it makes more sense to test our web application on a Mac box with Safari browser installed on it. Same way, if we say people use Mozilla Firefox quite often on Linux boxes, or people use Chrome browser quite often on Windows boxes, or maybe Internet Explorer on Windows boxes. So now the test matrix is doubling up, because in fact tripling up, because we are talking about 3 different operating systems on which we should be running our tests, and with this configuration of browsers. So that is where we want to, if we want to run all these test cases, one option that we have is all the test cases that we want to run with Firefox, we can schedule it on our dev box, our machine, and Mozilla related Safari related test cases we go and schedule on someone else's machine which is a Mac machine. But that way also it is going to take kind of huge effort from our side, because we are copying all our test suite, all our binaries, and we are taking it to another person's machine. Now this is something that Selenium Grid makes it very easy for us. So in nutshell, if we have huge amount of test cases and we have a test matrix which says run on different OS platforms as well as different browser configurations, so this Selenium makes it very easy. That is, by just scheduling the tests on our development box, we will be able to satisfy all the needs. We'll see how we do that. So let's first try to understand the concept of Selenium Grid. In Selenium Grid, it is supposed that we have one or more boxes, one or more machines where we can schedule our automation. And these machines in Selenium Grid terminology, they are called nodes. So we have a Windows node here, and on this node we can have Chrome browser installed, we can have Firefox browser installed, we can have a Safari as well. So any node, one node is a machine which is an OS platform on which there may be one or more browsers running. Then we have a second node which is a Linux machine, third node which is a Mac machine. So we have these 3 nodes. Now Grid says these machines are node because in these machines we want to run our test cases. Now when we want to run our test cases on all these 3 machines, we don't want to take the pain of copying our binaries, our jar files onto each one of these machines and scheduling it. We want to run them from one centralized location, that is our own development machine. So what we do in Selenium Grid, it says you have three nodes which may be lab machines, which may be machines of our colleagues, and now we want to run our tests on them. So what we need to run it from central location is we need to have a hub. Now a hub in Selenium Grid terminology is it's a machine that distributes tests to nodes. So hub is a special machine. So in our case, hub will be our own development machine where we kind of schedule our test cases. So this hub is going to schedule the test cases on node. So it's clear, like Selenium Grid is a hub node scenario where hub is a machine which is like a manager typically in office. Typically a manager is given a task and then he goes and checks with his team members what are their capabilities, and accordingly based on their capabilities he distributes the tasks among his subordinates. So that is how even Selenium Grid works. So there is a hub, there are many nodes, and essentially we can have two Windows nodes, we can have 5 Linux nodes attached to one hub. So even that configuration is possible. Now all these nodes, they connect themselves to hub. They let the hub know that we are there and what our capabilities are. Like Windows box can go to hub and say, hey hub, I am capable of running tests on Firefox as well as on Internet Explorer. Same way Linux can go and say, like, I can run the test cases of Chrome and Firefox both. Mac can go and say I can run Safari and Chrome related test cases on me. So this is a way of these three nodes telling the hub that these are the capabilities that we have. Whenever somebody assigns you a work that we are capable of doing, please redirect to us. So that is what the configuration looks like. Now after we are done with this configuration, next thing that we do is we go and look at our test suite, and we need to do one modification in our test cases, because typically when we write test cases to run on one machine, we create the browsers like this: WebDriver D is equal to new Firefox driver whenever we are running our test cases with Firefox driver. So whenever we create an object like this, that means this new Firefox driver is going to launch a browser on a machine where the test is going to run. So ideally this will launch a browser on our development machine. Now that scenario is changing in Grid. In Grid we are saying these test cases should not run on our development box, but these test cases should be given to a hub. So when we say these test cases should be given to hub, then these test cases should also know, or they should also inform the hub what browser they want to run with. That is the configuration that we will specify. So this line in our test code we typically remove or replace with a new line. So we, rather than creating a Firefox driver object, we create a remote WebDriver object, and remote WebDriver object typically will require two things from us. First, the address of hub wherever we have run the hub software. Then we need to tell what capabilities are we looking at. So here the capability is saying we are looking for a Firefox browser. Same way we can say Chrome browser, we can say Android browser. So even nodes are not limited to these three platforms. We may have one more Android platform as well. So this is the way, this is the change that is required in test cases. Once we have made those change, once we have started using remote WebDriver, then it's a very simple thing to execute this test. We give a run request to hub, hub distributes it to various nodes that it has, and our test pass completes in no time. Because when we run these test cases typically we parallelize, and hub starts distributing the test parallelly. So at one time we will see our test will be running on Mac, on Windows, on Linux in parallel. So that is what Selenium Grid allows us to achieve. So in nutshell, if we summarize, there are two things we will be able to achieve using Selenium Grid. The first thing is we are able to run our test cases on different platforms in parallel. That's the first thing that we achieve. Second thing is, even on one machine, if we want to run two tests in parallel, even that is doable. I'll show both the demos in this video. So I hope this picture is clear, because if these concepts are clear, then it will be very easy to understand the next practical demo that we are going to see. Okay, now that we know sufficient about how Selenium Grid works, what a node is and what a hub is, let's see a live demo of Grid working in action. So there are a set of steps that we need to follow in order to do a Grid and hub setup. So first step says download Selenium standalone server jar file. This you will get on Selenium site. On Selenium site, go to download, and there is, we can see there is a Selenium standalone server. So this is the file that we need to download, and we need to put this file on hub as well as all the nodes. So I have already done these first two steps that are mentioned in this slide. Download this file and copy that to all the machines. So I can show you my two nodes that I'm going to use. So I have another Windows laptop and a Mac, and both of them are there on my network, and I'm connected to them through the VNC player. So I have kind of remote desktop into that to show you the live execution of our test cases in a distributed environment. Then the current machine that I'm using is my development machine, on which I have my Eclipse project of test cases, and I have a command prompt opened. So I'll make my development machine as my hub and other two machines as nodes. So having followed this step, let's take the next step is run jar file on dev machine to make it a hub. So we are going to make my machine a hub. So the command is java -jar, and the downloaded file that we have is this Selenium server standalone, and here we have to say role of my development machine is hub. And when we run this command, in the end we will see a URL given to us, and this URL is important for nodes because nodes will be registering to this URL. So let's copy this URL because that is the next step. Download URL of hub. Okay, it should not be download, basically it's a URL of the hub. So that's a typing mistake. Now we have seen our hub has started. So same way we need to start our nodes. On nodes we will go and run the same command. The only changes in this command are role should be node rather than hub, and then we will give the hub URL. That's what we have copied from here, and then in the end we will give what type of browser this node is saying to hub, that I can handle the test cases of Chrome. Like Mac machine can tell to hub that give me test cases of Safari, and at one time I can take only one Max instance, or it can also have 2, 3, 4, all the values. So let's go ahead and configure our nodes as well. So first we go to Mac node, and here what we do, we will go up. I have that command typed here already. So you can see I'm running this command as role is node. I'm giving the hub URL, and I'm giving the browser type is browser name is Safari, max instance is 1. So when we run this command, this node will register to hub, and we will see that here hub says registered a node 1.14. So this node of Mac has registered to our hub. Now we go ahead and configure the second node, which is Windows Box. Here what I'm doing is I'm setting two browsers, Chrome and Firefox both. So this second node of Windows is saying to the hub that whenever you have tests which have to be run on Chrome or Firefox, you can forward it to me. When we hit run, we will see another node will get registered here. So when that command is running and it got like there is 1.18, that's another node that has come. Okay, so now with these two things in picture, let's go ahead and schedule our tests. So we go to the Eclipse, and here we can see we are specifying that we have to run our 3 test cases are there, 1, 2nd and 3rd, and we are saying run these 3 test cases on Safari and Firefox browser. Now what these 3 test cases do is, the first test case simply it goes to the being 0 home page. So this goes to our site, and let me go to the home page. It simply comes to this page and it counts how many hyperlinks are there on this page. So all these menu items, all these buttons, they are hyperlinks. You can see in the bottom left of the page it is telling which URL they are redirecting to. So first test is simply going to this page, opening the page, counting the URLs and coming out. Second test case is also similar, but it counts the unique URLs. If one page has 2 URLs, I don't know whether we have a duplicate URL on this page, but let's say if this URL and this URL, okay, we have it here. Yeah, both these URLs, if we see right now at the bottom left corner of the browser, they are pointing to being 0.in. So these will be counted as one URL. Now third test case is little interesting. and what this test does is it goes to web tables page. This is a practice page for Selenium web tables. Here on this page, the test opens this page. It counts currently how many rows are there in this table, and as we can see there is only one row. Then test will click this add row button 2 times, 1 and 2. After clicking 2 times, now it will again go and count the number of rows in the table. Initially rows were 1, it has clicked 2 times, so now it validates that there should be 3 rows. That's the validation the test is doing. If the rows are 3, then it marks that as pass, otherwise failed. Now in test I have given a little twist. Rather than clicking it fixed number of times, that is 2, I have made it a random number. So every time this page is opened, every time we run the test case, how many times this button will be clicked is calculated randomly in the test case, and then test case does the dynamic validation of number of rows in the table. So these are 3 simple straightforward tests, and we are saying 3 tests should be run against 2 browsers. So overall total tests will be 6, because 3 test cases, each test with 1 browser makes it 6. So that is our test matrix. Now let's go ahead and run our test cases. Now in order to run these test cases, we simply need to right click test runner, run as Java application, and let's go back and monitor our nodes. So we can see the hub got a request to run the test on Safari, and it has been forwarded to Mac machine, and we saw the browser launched and it went off very quickly. Same way the next test is scheduled on Windows, so it is running over here. We can see the Firefox browser is there, and in parallel we can see on Mac Safari browser has come. So tests are executing parallel. As soon as the machine gets free, new test is scheduled on that machine. See, the Firefox has launched on Windows, and at the same time Mac may get another Safari for third test case. So in Mac we are seeing again Safari has launched and the test is running, and this time it is running the rows based test. So 5, 6, 7, 8 and exited, and we see on Windows again Firefox based test is running, and it clicked the row I think only once and it came out. And here in the end we can see total 6 tests and all 6 have passed. Okay, now let's do a little twist. On Mac we are going to start we are going to tell to the hub that Mac can run 2 browsers, Safari and Firefox. I have Firefox also installed in my Safari in my Mac. So this is Firefox. I have Chrome as well, but here right now we are exposing only Firefox and Safari from a Mac, and when we run this command, this will be re-registered to the node, to the hub, and it will say now I am capable of running Firefox as well as Safari. Now let's go to the Windows box. There also we register our node again with new set of parameters, and this time we are saying we can take Chrome browser and Firefox over here, or rather than saying Firefox, let's make it Internet Explorer. Yeah, that is what we will run it with, and hit enter. So now the server knows that 2 new nodes have been registered, the old nodes have been cleaned up. You can see cleaning up stale test execution test session. Now let's go and make changes to our configuration here. We set all the 4 browsers, 3 test cases to run against all the 4 browsers, and parallel instance also let's make it 4, because at one time 2 tests can run on Mac and 2 tests can run on Windows. So we have made the parallel test count to be 4. Let's go ahead and hit a run Java application. Let's come back to our nodes and our hub, and let's see how the execution goes. So overall this time 12 test cases are going to run. You can see now it is requesting for Firefox. Now on Mac we can see the Firefox browser has launched. Here we can notice this is Firefox. On Windows we can see Chrome browser is being requested. So on Windows we notice the Chrome browser has launched. and third test has already been scheduled here. You can see in the command window of Eclipse that Eclipse is continuously scheduling our tests. Now IE, Internet Explorer, has launched in Windows to run a test, and Mac is kind of little waiting. Okay, so next test has been scheduled on Mac also. A Safari related test has come, and we can see how the tests are being scheduled in parallel on Mac as well as on Windows. They are running based on their capabilities. Now we can see on Mac we are seeing Firefox based test running, that has also exited. On Windows again Chrome has launched. Till now 7 tests have been scheduled, 5 more pending, so 8th has also come. And had we been using only one machine, we would have noticed that these tests to execute would have taken longer time. Since they are working since they are being scheduled on 2 parallel machines, they are working pretty fast, because parallelly we are able to execute our test cases, that too on different platforms and different browsers. So only last test I guess is remaining. And we can see on Windows we are running the add row based test. So clicking add row 7 times. Okay, that test has exited, and we can see all the 12 test cases that we had. Basically our 3 test cases with 4 different browsers have executed simultaneously. That's the real benefit of using Grid. So that was the demo of Selenium Grid in action. Now basically whenever we build an automation framework, we start with set of manual test cases, then we automate them using Selenium, and then based on various needs and based on various needs of a bigger web application, typically we need to structure our automation in the form of a framework. So we create a framework with various pieces that are shown here in this diagram, and then we run our test cases through an execution engine, which in real world would be TestNG or NUnit in case people are using C#. And then the test cases are executed every day by the test engine, and they are scheduled on either a single machine or using a grid on set of multiple machines, and then test results come out and an email report is sent out. Now in this thing also you will see, like, every day we need to go to office to schedule this test execution. But if you want to get rid of even that, then we have another tool to help us, which is called Jenkins. Now Jenkins is a tool which helps us schedule our test execution, and scheduling also can be based on a trigger. Now a trigger can be, we can say every morning at 5 a.m. our tests should start running automatically. So that is one way of saying to Jenkins that every morning 5 a.m. no matter we have come to office or not, just schedule a test case, so that by the time we reach office at 9:30 or 10, all our tests would have been run in a grid configuration, and we can see the failures, and we can find we can log the bugs accordingly. So Jenkins is the next step after exploring the grid. Well, so that was the end of this. If you have any training requirements, we provide specific trainings to the advanced topics in Selenium. So you can reach out to us via email being0in@gmail.com, or you can give call to this number to know about when is our next batch starting, or in case you want to have one-on-one sessions, we have that opportunity also available. Then we have a website. For any training requirements, you can always go to this URL and you can register yourself. That way whenever we get any inquiry, we reach back to the people who are in need of training, and we try to provide hands-on trainings which are more practical in nature. So this is a small form that you can fill out whenever you have any inquiry. So basically Selenium Grid, Jenkins, GitHub, Maven and Ant, Cucumber, Selenium Basics, or Core Java. And basically training mode, you have to fill out it's one-to-one session or online batch in a weekday or on weekends, or we have classroom trainings at our own office space in Hyderabad, India, and we provide corporate trainings also at client side. So any of the requirement, any of the mode that you are looking forward to, please fill in that. And after that, there are your contact details, country of residence, and in case you have any specific questions or specific requests for us, feel free to submit that, and it just takes a 2-minute time for you to submit this form, and we'll get back to you with whatever best we can do for you. So well, that's all. So this is Skype ID in case you want to have a quick discussion for any inquiries, any queries, then you'll find me online most of the time. So wish you happy coding. Hope this grid session was useful for you and you will be able to take the maximum benefit out of it. Thank you so much for watching.